This is Ha Giang, a place located in the very north of Vietnam. A place that, despite the challenging journey to reach it, still attracts thousands and thousands of tourists every year. A place that I could confidently call my favorite, one that I would love to revisit time and time again. This video is about a breathtaking mountain range in Ha Giang that will definitely amaze you with its mind-blowing beauty. My Ha Giang trip began on a challenging note. I decided to ride my own bike, which had its advantages and disadvantages. On the positive side, I would be traveling on a familiar and reliable bike. It's comfortable and has plenty of space for my gear. I would also save on bike rental costs, though there was a big downside. I had to cover the distance from Hanoi to Ha Giang and then return. That's over 1,000 kilometers, quite a lot. This number intimidated me, especially considering I had recently had a minor motorbike accident, and you know how it works, even just a minor accident leaves a lingering sense of fear in your head. I wasn't entirely comfortable about this trip, but the timing was perfect. It was mid-spring, the weather is perfect, not too hot, not too cold. I had an 8-day holiday period at my disposal, which might have been a bit too much for a Ha Giang trip, but I really wanted to do some proper filming, and that would take some time. My bike ride began with another challenge. As soon as I hit the road, it started to rain. The grey and unpleasant weather followed me on the rather monotonous 400-kilometer stretch before reaching Ha Giang. This was not entirely pleasant, but I knew that later I would thank myself for this trip, and I did. Once I arrived in the town, things started to get better. Ha Giang is a town located in the northernmost province of Vietnam. This is where you begin your scenic ride through the loop that winds its way past the picturesque villages of this northern region. This is probably one of the most beautiful roads that you can find in Vietnam, and I'm not exaggerating, just wait and see. The start of the loop is quite moderate. You start off with some steep hills and canyons, enough to impress a novice traveler. The roads are long and winding, mostly empty, with occasional trucks and motorbikes. As the altitude gradually rises, the views become more and more impressive. A quick note here, just a week before this holiday, my sister presented me with these amazing wireless microphones. They're really nice, but the thing is, I'm not really used to talking to the camera in public. So yeah, some shots are a bit awkward. A bit of awkward David Attenborough at Bear Grylls kind of style. Not intentionally, but yeah, it is what it is. Sorry. Let's continue watching. One of the things that I really like about Ha Giang is that it really reminds me of Kiev, my hometown. All these leaves and pine trees. It looks like some park in the city center of Kiev. Makes me feel very sentimental. Besides, Vietnamese is really like having picnics in different random places, which also is quite a bit in a Ukrainian style. Vietnamese are normally very welcoming. When they see foreigners, that often suggest some rice wine or beer, which is really nice, but not really ideal for a motorbike ride. Apologies for the little improvisation there. I'll try to improve in the future videos. After finishing my final shooting, I drove further until I reached my next destination where I would spend my night, a small town called Minh. This little town serves as a popular resting point for backpackers attempting to conquer the loop. The following day was really exciting for me, as I was about to take a new for me road to a village called Dong Van. It was a relatively short ride, about 50 kilometers, but it took me around 4 hours to complete because of my frequent stops for filming. And what a remarkable place it was. It felt as if I had been teleported to another world. The landscape transformed from lush green hills to rugged and jagged mountains. The weather added to it, with mist and clouds creating a feeling of being in some distant country far in the north, certainly not Vietnam. So I'm in Ha Giang now, on my way to Dong Van. The views are just unbelievable. All these mountains, it's just jaw-droppingly beautiful. There's a bit of a mist everywhere. It's unbelievable. It feels like you're no longer in Vietnam, you're somewhere in another country. It's so mysterious and beautiful. Amazing. It definitely was not what I'd been expecting to see. I deliberately slowed down while all those easy riders with backpackers rushed past me. I was in a hurry. I wanted to immerse myself in the surroundings, absorb every detail and process everything I saw. I intentionally took wrong paths and roads just to get a little lost and spend more time here. At some point, I ended up in a little mountain village, which was a very strange but certainly an unforgettable experience. This place was giving such a strong sense of adventure, I just couldn't get enough of it. Dong Van is a quaint little village with a small mountain in the middle of it that I believe can be climbed. I noticed some stairs leading to it, but I felt a bit lazy and decided not to go there. Funny enough, the highlight for me in this town was a proper Italian restaurant serving delicious pizzas and good wine. I know it might sound absurd, why have pizza when you're in Vietnam? But trust me, after days of rice with pork for breakfast, rice with chicken for lunch, and rice with rice for dinner, enjoying something different sent me to cloud 9. After a good rest in Dong Van, I continued my journey to the northernmost outpost of Vietnam. There's a peculiar little tower that overlooked the Chinese territory. I can't say it's something extraordinary, but rather an intriguing geographical location with some nice views. I've always found it fascinating to be at the border of a country. It's so strange how you can be on the same area, but then here it is Vietnam, with its distinctive culture, history and people. And just a few kilometers away it's China, which feels like a whole different planet. After exploring the tower, I moved in the direction of Meo Vac, which turned out to be the most beautiful part of my trip. Just take a look at these views. On my way, I made a stop to see the famous Skypath Trail. Currently, tourists can only walk on it, as it is too steep and busy for bike riding. Nonetheless, even walking along the trail was pretty breathtaking experience.
Alright, I am in Meo Vac. I think this is the highlight. The views are just out of this world. I can't believe that this is getting better and better every single time. I can't understand how this is possible. It took me a bit of time to get to the border with China and back to see that tower, which was nice, but it's more like a tick in the box for me, I think. While the ride to Meo Vac was just unbelievable. I think I'm gonna change my plan a little bit. I think I'm gonna spend here 2 nights in Meo Vac. And only after then I will go to Jules, because I didn't have a chance to film everything. It was getting kind of late, and then the sun went down, and just kind of all lost color. So yeah, gonna stay here for a little bit longer. It's really beautiful. I don't know.
The ride to the canyon was relatively short, but the road was not so enjoyable. It was in terrible condition and crowded with tourists. But once I finally reached the boat station, things started to go more smoothly. Despite the large crowd, there were plenty of boats, so I didn't have to wait in line. The canyon itself was absolutely magnificent. It's a stunning, beautiful place with massive mountains towering above as you glide past them in a small boat. It reminded me of a scene straight out of Lord of the Rings, the same magical vibe. The journey to my final destination town was expected to be easy and enjoyable. The first part of the route was new to me, so I was excited to explore it. As for the second part, even though it was familiar, it was incredibly beautiful and I was happy to experience it once again. But things didn't go as planned. There was a bit of a problem during the first part. The condition of the road was horrendous. It was undergoing repairs and almost half of it was nothing but rubble, mud and construction works. It was exhausting to navigate through, and the experience was far from spectacular. Although the surrounding views were nice, I was so focused on avoiding the ditches that I couldn't fully enjoy the scenery. Fortunately, the second half of the route was much better. Having traveled that section before, I knew what to expect. The road was in excellent condition, and the views were absolutely breathtaking.
Hey, I'm in Jules. This is my last stop in Ha Giang, my final location. After this, I'll be leaving this area. I'll be staying in Jules for 2 days. It's a really nice, small and cozy village. There's a small waterfall here. I'll go for a walk over there tomorrow. And just generally, I think tomorrow I'll rest here and we'll try to stay away from a motorbike for as much as possible. I'm quite tired of riding it. So yeah, tomorrow we'll be just walking, and then the day after tomorrow I'll be leaving Ha Giang and I'll go to Ba Lake. The ride to it will take a while. It's about 180 kilometers away from here, so this will take good 7-8 hours. Not very excited about it, but well, what can you do? But then Ma Pi Leng should be nice and relaxing too, so that should be great.
Ha Giang is undeniably charming and stunning. In my videos I often mention some downsides or areas for improvement, but with Ha Giang I believe it's close to ideal. The challenge of reaching this destination means it hasn't been overrun by tourists yet. It offers a touch of adventure without being overly extreme. Even if you don't try to motorbike, you can easily hire someone to show you around. The accommodations and food are relatively simple, but they contribute to the sense of true adventure and exploration. In a rapidly developing world, such experiences are not easy to come by.
And this will be the end of the video. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. These were amazing 7 days in Ha Giang. I really enjoyed them and I'm really happy that I managed to get here again. I hope that you will be able to get here too. It is amazing. I think it is one of the best areas in Vietnam that you can visit. The views are amazing and it still has this feeling of wilderness, and you still get a feeling of true adventure when you ride through all these windy roads. I really hope you'll have a chance to experience this too. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment section down below, tell me what you think about the video, which view did you like the most. For me, it is time to go back home. I'll first stop in Ma Pi Leng, maybe make a few shots over there, and then go back to Hanoi. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye, and see you soon.